What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast. I am your host. I am Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and today's guest is someone who wears a lot of hats, literally and figuratively. And he does it all with the same intensity and discipline that defined him as a competitor. Before he was a CrossFit Games athlete, Brandon Luckett is first a father, a husband, and he's a medical physicist, the owner of not one but two physics consulting companies and the founder of the Imam Co., a growing community built around the values of consistency, grit, and relentless effort. And yes, on top of all of that, he has competed at the highest level in CrossFit, standing on the CrossFit Games floor multiple times. In this conversation, we're diving into how he lives his life, family, business, and performance, what he's learned from competition, and how those lessons carry into life, fatherhood, and entrepreneurship. Here's my conversation with Brandon Luckett. Brandon Luckett, welcome to the Powerhouse Mentality podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin.
Yeah,
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, just another day here in Florida. It's like raining, but then it's sunshiny, just the sunshine state.
It's that Gulf Coast weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I mean, we're here in Louisiana. It's very much the same. It's on and off. So we've been getting like beautiful mornings over here, and then
Mm-hmm.
just absolute thunderstorms in the afternoon.
Yeah, because we're on
But
the panhandle, so we're like right in line. So you understand the
yeah,
struggle.
100%, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Well, for those of you who don't know who Brandon is, I'm going to let him give you a little intro. So, Brandon, tell us who you are. If we were in an Uber and I turned around and I was like,
hmm
hey, what do you do? Like, what would you say to that person?
Um, man. So professionally, I am a physicist by trade. So I went to school, got a underdegree in physics, ended up becoming a medical physicist. I own two physics consulting companies. We work with radiation and medicine. So I contract out to a bunch of different hospitals and imaging centers. We work with radiation like X-rays, CTs, MRIs, mammography, that sort of thing. On the side of that, I've got a little side business that has grown into more of a business that is the Imam Company. And we provide an online training platform for a community. Basically, it's a CrossFit style training subscription. Started that about 3, maybe 4 years ago with my brother-in-law. We're about to hit the 1,000 member mark, which is pretty crazy considering that to it was never meant to be like legitimate
Mm-hmm.
operation. Uh, I'm also a husband and I've got a little boy. So husband and father. And that kind of wraps up the things that are very important to me.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll get into like all the things CrossFit, business, parenthood, because all of them are, related to you becoming the best version of yourself. And I think the craziest thing is when I first started talking to you on Instagram, I just thought you were like this CrossFitter who like, did the programming thing. And then you were like, no, I'm a physicist by day and then a CrossFitter by night. I was like,
Yeah.
well, what?
Yeah, it was CrossFit was always like secondary in command.
Mhm.
It was always like I always promised myself when I got into competing because let me back up just a smidge. It's crucial to the story, kind of. I wrestled for 8 years. Wrestler through like I started in fifth grade, wrestled all the way through 12th. And it was my probably like my first love of my life. I loved wrestling. I loved the training. I loved the grind. I loved the discipline, the cutting weight, the just like the one-on-one aspect of it, the grittiness. I loved it so much. But going into college, I grew up in like a very career-driven family.
Mhm.
It was always go to school, get a good degree, go find a good job. And whenever I was going into college, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And my dad was like, I'm a physicist. I like my life. I've got a pretty flexible day. Like he was kind of Mr. Mom whenever we were kids. Um, he owned his own company. It was just him. He's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this company when I'm done. You might as well go get a degree in physics and come into it. I was like, all right, that sounds kind of good. Like I'm good enough at school. I can figure it out. But on the side of that, I wasn't great at school. And so, I was like a BC student in high school. And of course, physics is pretty hard, especially the path I was going on, the
Yeah.
grades. Like after undergrad, you had to go into grad school, get a master's or a PhD residency. And I was like, okay, like grades really matter for that projected path. And so if I want to go do this, I've got to put away everything else and focus solely on school. It's like if I go
Mhm.
wrestle in college, which are like I had some offers to go wrestle at some pretty good schools. I was like, I can't do that. And so, I had coaches telling me like, oh no, like we'll make sure you get good grades and this. I was like, dude, no. I did this for 4 years. During like my off hours, I was in the library looking at videos of my favorite wrestlers in the Olympics or in college or whatever. Like I didn't care about anything other than wrestling. If I go wrestle
Hmm.
in college, it's going to be the same thing. And
Hmm.
I've only got like, if it was like say like basketball or football or baseball where like I was good enough to like, okay, like maybe after college I could go play professionally and actually make an income, that might have been a different story. But there's certainly not even that I was at that level per se. Like if wrestling did have like a good like projected professional pathway after, but that there was none of that. So I was like,
Yeah, it's just the Olympics. And
yep,
like, to be honest, Olympians just don't make money unless they're sponsored by these big companies.
exactly. And so it was like, okay, after 4 years, wrestling is done. But like
Hmm.
I've got 30, 40 years of professional life after that where I need to have a good income. And so I was like, I'm not wrestling. I'm gonna go study physics in school, but got into CrossFit while I was doing that. And so with that being said, school was always priority because I knew what I needed to do to get where I wanted to go. And CrossFit was like on the back burner. But all the
Hmm.
way through competing, I mean, I qualified for my first regionals back in 2017 while I was in undergrad at LSU, getting a physics degree, finishing up my last year. I qualified for my first games during my first years of my master's work at MD Anderson in Houston, Texas. Qualified for my second individual CrossFit Games while I was in residency, my third CrossFit Games while I was in residency, and then the last two qualifications was while I was working full time. So yeah, CrossFit was always just like, I'm gonna try to be really good at it, but I'm not gonna let these other things suffer. So yeah, um,
And I think that's such incredible self-awareness too, to like be able to make that decision when you were going into college to be like, I could do this wrestling thing, which is like my passion, but if I do this, then I won't be able to like it was long-term thinking, which I feel like most college students don't do.
yeah, yeah. I think part of that was the way that we were kind of raised. We were always raised with like the important thing is like how you provide for your family, what kind of life you can give them. And so we were always looking like 30
Mhm.
years down the line and not the next 2 years or next 3 years, whatever it might be. And so like I had this vision of like what I wanted life to look like in my 30s and 40s instead of in my 20s. And so I worked for the 30s and 40s instead of my 20s, you know?
And I bet you're happy that you did that now.
Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you, I still dream about wrestling. Like legit. Like I have dreams where like
Yeah.
I'm still in high school and like I'm wrestling, or like I'm like a 20-year-old dude, like on my fifth year of high school or something like that, like still like trying to wrestle or whatever, or like in college wrestling. It's like the weirdest dreams. And in fact, like where we moved, I still get to go every now and then I'll go roll with like some of the guys around here who wrestle or like do jiu-jitsu, and it's feeds a little bit of that. But yeah, I had to, I mean, it was hard to like set aside that passion and put it away. But
Mhm.
again, like life's a lot of decision trees of sacrifices and what you want. And I should always kind of move through life with like, okay, like what's 10, 20 years down the line look like, and what are my decisions today kind of impact that decision tree.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the coolest things I think about you is like, there are a lot of CrossFit athletes out there who are only CrossFit athletes. And you just explained your whole like I qualified for this while I was doing all these crazy things. Like most people can't even balance that one thing. First of all, how did you go from wrestling to CrossFit? I know you said you found it when you were
Hmm.
in college, but kind of how did that happen?
Yeah, I give that credit to my brother and his roommate. So, my brother went to Tulane over here in New Orleans, about an hour away, and so he was rooming with a bunch of guys in his fraternity, and one of them happened to be doing CrossFit at the time, and my brother and him kind of started doing it together, like stay fit in college and whatnot. And so on like, when my brother would come visit into town, he would talk about like, oh, dude, we're like doing this thing called CrossFit. He'd show me videos, man, these guys are jacked, they're ripped. He'd put me like through some CrossFit workouts or whatever. Um, and so whenever I stepped away from competing in wrestling, basically that summer after I graduated high school, I went to the affiliate with my brother for the first time
Mhm.
and joined a class. He's like, dude, you gotta come do this. You're gonna be great at it. You have good endurance, you're athletic, like just come try it. And so I jumped into a class at the local affiliate in Baton Rouge. And I fell absolutely in love with it. Like it was like it reminded me of being in that sweaty, humid wrestling room where everyone's like training together and like it's just like that camaraderie. Like that's the greatest thing about the affiliate class. It's like you're suffering together. And
Mm-hmm.
like I immediately fell in love. I was like, all right, this is it. Like this will be like my training regimen. I also get like the community aspect. It's really hard. It's a little bit competitive, and it just like filled that void. And
Mm-hmm.
so, my brother and Chad Becknell both got me into it, and yeah, I fell in love immediately.
I think that's why a lot of people who get into CrossFit because they like
Hmm.
crave that competitiveness that they miss from like sports that they grew up with, especially
Hmm.
something like wrestling. It's like that grittiness and that like individual sport aspect to it. But how did CrossFit go from I'm doing this for training to like
Hmm.
I'm now trying to go to the CrossFit Games? Or did you kind of almost like fall into qualifying?
Yeah. So whenever I started CrossFit, I was like, I'm not going to compete in this. Again, school priority number one. But like in our little affiliate in Baton Rouge, like we ended up qualifying like a team for regionals through like the open. We had, it was back whenever there's 3-3.
Hmm.
And my open scores were good enough to place me on the team that first year. And so I'd been to regionals on the team a few times early on. And, even then, it wasn't like I was taking it like super serious, but I had definitely fallen in love with like the training and was putting in just like a lot of things I do, like a little bit more time than might be average, right? And
Mm.
so it was just like really slow progress. Like I started CrossFit in 2012, and qualified for the games 6 years later, maybe 5 years later, like uh in 2018. So it
Hmm.
was like 5 or 6 years later that I ended up like qualifying. So it was a very slow process of like getting a little bit fitter and whatnot. And I guess part of it was, once you start seeing what like that work kind of can bring, you just kind of want to do like a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Yep.
Um, it wasn't until maybe like 2016, I think, I'd gone and watched the CrossFit Games a couple times, like 2015, 2016, went out to California to go watch and stuff. And that was where I was like, it would be so cool to qualify and be like one of these humans. Like I looked at like those men and women on the field, like the individuals, men and women, and then the teams. Like everyone was like, everyone here's a specimen. Everyone
It's so
here,
true too.
yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. I remember the first time I went to regionals and like seeing like the individuals on the regionals floor because like the regionals teams back then like you didn't have to be insanely fit, just because it wasn't quite as like saturated back then and like
Hmm.
it was you qualified for the open, it was all had to be at the affiliate, you couldn't like pull people in from all over the place like they can now. um and so, I remember like seeing like individuals on the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, they're so strong, they're so ripped, they're so like fast. And I was like, I want to be like that. And then going to California, as I kind of sealed the deal, I was like, I want to qualify here. And so it was right around like that 2016, 2017 time. Like I kind of set my eyes on that goal. So yeah, it was gradual. And then, you just get inspired one day. You're like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that because I think that so many people have this like skewed perspective towards like going from like somebody who's working out at CrossFit to like becoming a games athlete, how they think it should happen like that. Where
Yeah.
it's like, no, it takes like 5, 6 years, 10 years sometimes for people to even get to that qualification level.
Yeah, I mean, one of the women on the Imam Co team this year, Sammy Pugh, it took her 10 years to match that goal, maybe 11 years or something crazy like
Yeah.
that, to be at the CrossFit Games. But one of the important parts was, like I said, I fell in love with the training.
That's what's
The
so
and the
important. You can't
Yeah,
not love the process. Like the
absolutely.
process is brutal.
Yeah,
I don't, I just keep coming back and I know that you can relate to that.
yeah, absolutely. And so, if I had never qualified for the CrossFit Games, I still would have loved the process of what I was
Hmm.
doing, trying to be like better and fitter. And, there were so many people I'd looked up to. And it was like, okay, like, how can I be a little bit more like them, a little bit more disciplined, a little stronger, whatever it might be. Um, and so, it was just, and I still do that in a lot of areas of my life.
Yeah.
And so maybe one day I'll end up being like the people I look up to now. But the thing is, whatever it is, if I make it or I don't, I'm gonna love the process while I'm doing it and enjoy the grind. And so, that's the part that made it sustainable long term. was just loving that process and like
Hmm.
the day to day. Like I just loved beating myself up, man. Like it was the best.
There's something addicting about it.
It is. It is insanely addictive.
Hmm. So, how many times did you qualify individually versus teams?
For the games,
Yeah,
I qualified once on a team, so four as an individual.
nice.
One of them, it doesn't show up on the CrossFit Games website. It was the COVID year where they did
Ah,
the top 30 men in the world for like the in affiliate
hmm.
games,
And
and
then the
then took
top
the
five.
top five to Aromas, and they only show the top five that year. So on the games, it says just I guess three individuals in one team, but
Hmm.
I count it five total.
I would totally count that. But what are some of the differences between being an individual athlete versus being on a team? Because I know that those are two
Yeah.
completely different things.
Yeah. Physically or emotionally.
Ooh, let's go both, whichever one you prefer first.
Yeah. Physically, wasn't too much different. Um, you definitely have to train a little bit more for shorter sprints.
Mm,
Almost more, you can focus a lot more on like interval style training and like exploiting your strengths as a team
hmm.
athlete because sometimes you can mitigate those weaknesses. But a lot of times it's also like, you know, partner one or like a partner's going or a pair's going and then you're waiting and then your turns to go and then you got to wait again. So there's a more focus on that than you get on the individual side. Um, and so from the training aspect, like you have to focus on those things a little bit more. You don't have to worry as much about your weaknesses because a lot of times, like if there's something glaring, like your team can kind of make up for it. But otherwise, it's very similar. You do have to mitigate those weaknesses as much as you can, but there's a little bit more forgiveness if you don't.
Hmm.
Um, the biggest notice for me on the team side was the emotional aspect of it. And by that, what I mean is on the emotional side of things, whenever I qualified for the CrossFit Games for my first time in 2018, I stood on the podium at regionals. And whenever I imagined that moment in my head before I ever qualified, like I wanted it so bad. And just the thought of qualifying and like hearing your name on the speaker saying like you're going to the CrossFit Games, like it would almost bring tears to my eyes.
Yeah,
Like I wanted it so bad.
yeah,
Like I thought like I'd be like so happy, like so elated, like and emotional. And whenever I was standing on that podium, there was none of that like excitement. It was
yeah,
the weirdest feeling. Like that night we went to dinner with my family and it was just like it was almost like I could breathe and like the weight was lifted off my shoulders. I was like, it wasn't exciting. It was really
yeah.
weird.
Hmm.
Now I will say like the pride that came from it was like, holy shit, like the work paid off. I was able to do it. I made it happen. That was big. The pride, like the personal pride, the internal like selfish pride was big.
Hmm.
Um, Whenever it was a team, it was almost like completely reversed. Like when we qualified, like I was jumping up and down, screaming my head off. I was like, "Holy shit! Like we did this! Like oh man, it was wild. Like you shared this excitement with three other people, and maybe part of it is because you're so excited for the other three, like doing their
Hmm.
job, like that uncontrollable that you can't control what they do.
Yeah,
Whereas like if on the individual side, you're in control of all your actions and like how you play the game and how you run the race. And so it's all on you. But when there's three others, like you get so excited for them. Like there was one event where like it was like a relay. I remember this in like Pasadena, California, there was a relay and like watching my teammates come, I was like screaming my head off. Like I was pulling my shirt over my head because I couldn't watch because the other teams were going around us. Like it was wild. But like the personal pride is like, oh, I only did like a quarter of the work, so like you're not as personally proud. And so like team was way more exciting than individual ever was.
yeah. Oh, I can definitely see how that would be a thing. What are some of like the highs? What is like one of your best moments from the games?
Hmm. Whew.
Loaded question.
I was never happy with how any of them panned out.
Yeah.
Yeah. uh I mean, I had some like good finishes in there. I had like a heat win last year, which was cool on the Echo bike and burpees.
You know, it's funny
um
about that one too, because I was watching it and I was like, Echo Bike burpees. I know how this man programs. He's gonna win this one. He's gonna get
yeah,
the win.
yeah. So like that was cool to Like that was the first time I ever had a Heat win at the games. Um, but a lot of times, like I don't think I ever figured out how to put it together at the games. It was either that or just the level. Because at the games, like everyone is so good. They're so good, and you see it a lot of times with like rookies. Like they'll go there and um, like they could have had like a stellar season, but then whenever you go put them on the biggest field with the best players, um, I just I don't know if I never played the game well enough or if I
Hmm.
didn't prepare enough. It's like there's always after the games every single year, the question in my head became if I wanted to be better. And to me, like the coolest thing would have been to be in like the top half of the field, top
Hmm.
20, top 15, somewhere in that range. Because I knew, excuse me, I knew what it took to be like top 10. Um, but as the years went on, less and less people were part time like I was. Like
Hmm.
they were more and more full time. Like this year at the games, I think me and maybe one other person had full time jobs outside of competing in the games. And so like whenever I would get to that level, I was like maybe I just didn't dedicate enough time to like meet the goals that I have. But at the same time, like that decision tree is like, okay, like this is the price you pay for not being full time. And
Hmm.
so like it hurt a little bit for sure. Um, but like every single year, you walk away from or I would walk away from the games and be like, man, I'm not super proud. And so it's tough to like look back on it like that because it's such a great achievement and I recognize that. But at the same time, it's just as a competitor, it's really hard to walk away and just like know how many people beat you. And so
Yeah.
it clouds a lot of the cool parts of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes you elite. Like just an elite mindset is by kind of being proud that you made it there, like having that pride, but also being never satisfied with the result, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, to be quite frank, a lot of the years of the games were tough emotionally to walk through.
Hmm.
But as I got older and realized, okay, like this is probably the last time, which would be like the last two times I went individually. I tried to just take a moment, during those weekends of just looking at, the crowd, the venue, the athletes, and be like, and just absorbing just like where I was,
Hmm.
and take myself out of like the results and just be like, okay, like this is insane.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah. And
really
just
cool
like
to me.
enjoy the present moment.
Yeah. So, um, the previous year, 2024, was really hard to do that.
Hmm.
After the first event when uh Lazar died, that was a really tough game, and
Hmm.
so it's a tough one to end on. But yeah, that's the last one, and so those are the memories I have from competing at the CrossFit Games.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was a hard one. I know I had a coach who was on the teams and everything,
Hmm.
so like I had a long conversation with her about that. I know that like so many people couldn't handle it emotionally because I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of just went on as if nothing had happened.
Yeah, it definitely, from my point of view, it didn't necessarily go on like nothing had happened.
Hmm.
I think they were trying to push on the competition as best they could,
It's just
because like,
they were in a bad situation, you know? Like whatever they
yeah,
did, they would have gotten shit about it, you know?
yeah. I think that if they hadn't continued on with the games, the company of CrossFit would have ceased to exist.
I would
It would have
agree
been
with that.
such a massive hit on them.
Hmm.
And so from that standpoint, I think they made the right decision to continue it on. Like if we wanted to see the community and the sport continue to progress, they had to make that decision.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if you were backstage, it was certainly not like nothing had happened. Like it was somber for 4 days. It was
Hmm.
tough.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like 2024, do you feel like that was the last year, like 100% for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And we had made that decision, like Kristen, my wife, she would support me in this as long as I'd want to keep going. She's told me like, hey, like if you want to compete again, like you've got my blessing. We just got to make sure that like priorities are straight.
Mm.
You're a dad first, you're a businessman second, and then third, whatever time's left over, you can devote to CrossFit. But I did that from 2012 to 2024, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the biggest thing like with competing is it's all for pride. I'm not pulling any cash from
Yeah.
winning these things. The compensation barely covers the travel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, Kristen was pregnant with Grayson the last time I competed, and I kind of knew in my head, I was like, okay, like this is the last one because I've got this baby on the way, and uh, I don't want to be a non-present dad, and not only that, but I don't want to be an anxious and stressed dad like
Mm-hmm.
I've been as a human in the past. Just because, gosh, like the beating mentally and emotionally it takes on you all year, especially the season's 6 months long. So that was a big part of it. Like it was hard for me to balance the emotions. Like I would notice, like as I got more stressed, the shorter my temper was, the more quiet and withdrawn I was. And so from that aspect, I didn't want to be that anymore. Um, and then, from the business standpoint, it's like, okay, like I've got three businesses I'm trying to grow. I want to dedicate more time and I can't finish that report. I can't, see my clients. I can't whatever. And so it's like, okay, like it's time to again look 20 years down the line, and I'm building a base for, those years. I'm building relationships, I'm building communities and whatnot. It's like, okay, like it's time to focus on those things because those are going to be here in 20 years and competing certainly won't be.
Yeah. I mean, I think so many people focus on like competitive, when they look at competitive CrossFitters, they think, oh, well, that's like physically demanding. But I don't think they realize how emotionally demanding, even just like one training, like one 30-minute piece can be so emotionally taxing. And then like how
Yeah,
that builds up because CrossFit is so different from just like people like to compare like, oh, it's like a hybrid athlete where it's like you run and you lift, but it's very different on the central nervous system in that sense.
oh yeah. And then not only that, but like if you're competing, you're looking at your performance every single day, 7 days a
Hmm.
week. If someone beats you in a training session or your splits aren't what they're supposed to be, or you're not feeling as strong, or like you're missing 80% on your lifts, and like you're like, what am I doing wrong? Am I not sleeping enough? Am I not eating well enough? And you start like asking yourself all these questions, and then it lingers in your head for weeks
Hmm.
until you have a good day, and then the good days last about 24 hours. The bad
Yeah.
days last about 72.
Yeah.
And so from that aspect, like just judging yourself constantly is exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it is like a 24-hour thing, right? It's not just like the training session, it's the nutrition, it's the recovery. Because really, like everybody trains really hard if you're at that top level in the sport, but it's like who can recover better at that point.
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, once the higher you get, the more important those little bitty details start to matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was like 24/7, 365,
Mm-hmm.
just on my mind.
Yeah. So how has things changed since, like, what does life look like now outside of competing now that you're done with that?
Um, there's three things that I think about all the time now. Uh, that is Kristen, Grayson, and my businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three things that are on my mind all the time now. I still train a lot, I
Yeah.
still work out, two days, oh, two times a day typically, um, just because I love it. But like, there's no agenda that like I have to get done in the gym. There's no lift I have to hit. There's no metcon I have to hit. There's no weakness I have to attack. And so, the gym is more of like a therapy session for me, get in there, get a good sweat in, feel good when I walk out. Um, but a lot more times now devoted to work and family. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot easier for me to disconnect from, being in the gym once I walk back through the garage door or out the gym door, whatever it is. So I'm more present when I'm with my family. But a typical day for me starts at 4 a.m. so I can get some computer work. I usually program for the Imam company for about an hour or two in the morning from 4 to 5:30 or 6. Uh, Grayson wakes up, spend a little time with him and Kristen. Kristen's also up working at that time too, so we're an early household.
Nice.
Spend some time with them, go on a walk, whatever it is, catch a workout, eat breakfast, out the door for work, catch a quick workout in the evening, and then spend the rest of the evening with them too.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome how you've shifted things to make to make sure you're more present in life, because that's really what matters.
Yeah. And like I'm still not perfect at it, like
Of
by any
course.
means. Like I still struggle a lot of times with disconnecting from, Instagram's a hard one for me to from because I like to answer messages from the community,
Yeah.
uh, reply to stories, repost stories, comment on like tag. Like I try to be very involved in that.
Hmm.
And that's pretty time consuming. And I feel like one of the things I struggle with is like knowing when to cut it off. Like I'll answer messages until I'm my eyes are closed going to sleep. And like
I'm the same person.
yeah, yeah. And so, still trying to like be cognizant of that. And the hardest times is whenever we're on the couch, Chris and Grayson and I, and I might be like responding to a message and Kristen's like, Dad, Dad. She's like, Brandon, Grayson's like looking at you. Like I look up from my phone, she's like, oh well, he was.
Mm,
Like, oh, I just missed it.
yeah.
And I don't want to be like that all the time, and so
Hmm.
just trying to be more aware of it and correct it. And like it might be it's one of those things that you just have to keep being cognizant about and conscious of so that you can slowly have better habits about it.
Yeah. And that kind of goes into, where did the Imam company come from? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah. So we started it about 3 years ago whenever I started working with my dad. Um, I just moved home from residency. I did 2 years in Oklahoma, moved back to Louisiana, started working with my dad. And he had been really sick with COVID whenever I moved back. And so it was just him doing the consulting gig. And he was a bit behind on work. And so whenever I came back, it was like, okay, we got to catch up on a lot of work. Um, and he threw me right into it. There was no like training for it. There was no introducing.
Hmm.
There wasn't a whole lot of introducing the clients. Like, hey, dude, like this is what we got to get done. And so I was like right into it, and I didn't want to lose like the ability to be fit, but I only had like 45 minutes, maybe an hour a day, which was very new to me to go from like 4 hours
Yeah.
of training a day to like maybe one. And so part of that, there's two pieces of this puzzle. Part of it was like the time constraint. The other side of it was I competed for so long, it was really difficult for me to do metcons and not want to know what someone else's score was.
Hmm.
And like have like the pressure of like, okay, I gotta beat this person, I gotta beat that, like whatever. It's like, okay, like I used to use EMOMs on the days whenever I was in residency working late. I would throw three different components together: monostructural, calisthenic, or gymnastics, and then a barbell or like a weight. And I would run like 30-minute EMOM, three movements, 10 rounds, and they would crush me. So it's like I'm maybe I'll start doing a little bit more of those. And so I started doing those. I was like, oh man, like I'm getting fit again. I feel fantastic. I'm leaning back out, and like I just felt really good doing it, and I was super efficient with my time.
Hmm.
I was like, maybe there's other people in my boat who aren't necessarily happy with the 10-minute affiliate classes. And they just feel like they need a little bit more, but like they're still time constrained. They don't want to be in the
Hmm.
gym for like 2 hours or whatever. And so that's where like the philosophy came in. It's like we want to be like super efficient. Um, and so I just like started throwing the workouts on Instagram that I was doing, 30-minute EMOMs, 15-minute EMOMs, whatever it was. And it kind of gained enough like popularity where I was like, maybe people started asking for subscriptions. And I had never intended to sell anything. I didn't want to be responsible for writing program,
Hmm.
because I know if you do a subscription, you got to write program every week. It's like someone's
Hmm.
paying you. You're responsible to make it happen. And I didn't want that added task to my to-do list.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a lack of confidence. Like, I don't know if I
Of
can
course,
write
that
5 days.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah. It's like, how am I supposed to write 5 days of programming a week? Like, I'm not going to, that's a lot. Uh,
Hmm.
but we had enough questions about it. I was like, maybe it's worth it. So I talked to my brother-in-law. I was like, look, dude, I got a full-time job, but I think we can do this, but I'm going to need help. And so he's a project manager and really good with tech and all that, putting plans into place and making sure things are on time. And so, my brother-in-law Ron, he's like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And so we kind of started beta testing it, playing around with it, eventually launched it. And we started off like 25 members. It's like, we were maybe making like $300 a month or something. We're like, nice. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hell
side
yeah.
hustle. Let's go. But we just started with the daily program. The whole idea was like in and out in an hour. Um, and over the years we slowly progressed to a competitive program and 90-minute program, high rocks, endurance. We've got a bunch of different tracks.
Hmm.
Um, but to this day, like our daily program, in and out in an hour. Of course, there's like extra work in there if you wanted to spend a little bit more time. Um, it's still our most popular track,
Mm.
but it came from a need that I had, and just tried to fill that need, and I guess other people had the same need.
Yeah. I mean, I first came across you guys because my coach, Eric,
Yeah.
he used to always use Mayhem, right? And then all of a sudden I
Hmm.
see him tagging like Imam Co. and his workouts were changing. And when Eric's workouts changed, my programming changes slightly. And I started
Yeah.
getting like these fucking crazy Imams. And I'm like, oh, I love these, like these 30-minute things where it's like three different things and there's no rest. And I'm like really pushing it. And I was like, oh, I really like what they're doing here. And then I started following a lot of the athletes who were part of it. And it's just like such a cool community. And I love the intensity behind the workouts. And every single time somebody goes like, oh, well, who does your programming and stuff? Because I put all my stuff on Instagram, I'll say I have this coach. But if you're looking for like programming, Imamco is like the place to be.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a cool journey. And like the way we write workouts has definitely evolved. We're not
Oh,
just
yeah. It's not just an
imams.
Imam.
Yeah. For a long time, like I tried to make it an on a minute struct. This chair is so squeaky. Try to make it an on a minute structure, like
Hmm.
just stay true to the name and whatnot. But like I kind of realized um there's a lot of value to other structures of workouts and whatnot.
Oh,
So it
yeah.
definitely evolved quite a bit. But like every Monday and Saturday, we start the week and end the week with an on a minute style workout. Our Mondays are our 30-minute days. Saturdays are the famed 40s. But I think a part of that also is just like getting better at writing workouts and knowing how to create
Mhm.
intensity inside of I got really good at writing EMOMs. And I've gotten a lot better at writing like intervals and chippers and things like that, and blending movements to create really good intensity. But it's
Yeah.
taken a long time. Like I've done the math, and I rarely repeat a workout, rarely repeat a conditioning piece. And yeah, I've written like I write like 40 something metcons a week.
Yeah. That's
52,
wild.
52 weeks a year for 3 years. It's like 4,000 conditioning pieces.
Yeah. I mean, you'll never run out of conditioning pieces to do.
So and I still come up with new things all the time, and like I rarely recycle workouts. It's not
Yeah.
that often.
What is like one of the hardest workouts you've ever written or done personally?
There was one I wrote. The one of the hardest ones I ever wrote was the first one I ever wrote. That's on our
Yeah,
Instagram.
that makes sense.
Yeah. It was rowing, heavy dumbbell snatches, and burpee box jumps. It's
Hmm.
like a 30-minute EMOM, 20-calorie row for men. Then I think 16 dumbbell snatches with a 70
Mm.
and 12 burpee box jumps. And it took me like 4 attempts to be able to finish that.
That's
And I
wild.
didn't finish it until like I was preparing for the games in 2024. Like best shape I'd ever been in. Took me a long time to finish it. That's one of the hardest workouts I've ever written. There was another one I wrote with it was like 15 10 5 devil's presses and thrusters with a max calorie bike and remaining time. And it was like I think it was every 10 or 8. I don't remember what that interval was. That one was rough.
That was
There-
pretty
There's
recently, I feel like, because I think I saw a couple people posting about that, and then you were like, "I'm so sorry to what I've done to my community." I'm
yeah,
like, "Oh my God."
yeah. So there's been some bad ones. I've done like some stupid long ones, but honestly, the long ones to me aren't quite as painful. They're more mental.
I agree
Um,
with that. Like, because I'm a more enduring athlete, so like
yeah,
Eric gives me a long one, I'm like, awesome. He gives me like a short fire breather, I'm like, oh, I hate my life.
yeah. That intensity brings like such a different aspect to it.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've written a. I have a tab in my Google Sheets that just says top tier, and it's all like the hardest workouts that like I'm just like keeping a little log of them. Like every time something hits like extra,
Hmm.
I'll copy and paste it and bring it over there.
Mm.
So it's a pretty big sheet.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how is like, what do you feel like? Actually, this is a good question. What do you feel like is the most rewarding process now of being 3 years deep into this Imam Co? Like now that it's something that you never thought it would be.
The most rewarding process or most rewarding
Most rewarding part
part of
of
it?
the process.
Um, I get messages decently regularly. Uh, it's really cool to whenever someone gives me feedback of saying like this program is awesome, like it's brought back my joy of fitness. It's made me like fall in love with training again. Those are really incredible messages. Um, but as you know, like I try to be very involved in our community and actually have conversations outside of exercising with people. A lot of it's like mindset and like from an emotional standpoint, dealing with burnout or like, whatever it might be. Um, and every now and then I'll get those messages of like, hey, like whatever you said, like really made an impact. And it has nothing to do with the fitness side of it.
Hmm.
Because like to me, the most important thing is that people have a life that they are proud of and that they love. And we are all dealing with so much bullshit day to day that a lot of times it's really hard. And the discipline that we learn inside of the four walls of a gym with a barbell in our hand, they they spread to our life. And that's what I care about more
Yeah.
is like how who are you as a human? And whenever something that we do in the community impacts someone as a human and makes them better, and they tell me about it, those are the really cool moments. That's the
Yeah.
cool stuff.
I love that. Yeah, no, I like to say the more adversity I overcome in the gym, the more adversity I can overcome in life because it's like direct correlation.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
100%.
Now,
Um,
this year you actually went from competitor to coach.
mhm.
How did that feel?
That was cool. That was cool. I've coached a couple times, not quite to the extent that we did this year. And what was cool with the team this year was watching them season battle. Oops, you froze. There, you're back.
Okay, you're back.
Uh, yeah. So we started back in like October or November. I think was the first time they got together, and immediately like the vibes were great.
Yeah.
But whenever you're dealing with four people, a lot of times like little dramas will happen, miscommunication, poor communication. They just don't work like a well-oiled machine.
Hmm.
And so a big focus to me was like they're going to be fit enough. I don't give a shit. Like if their training is perfect. What I need them to be is better humans so that they can work better together as a team.
Yeah.
And so, we preach so much communication, love, respect to each other. Um, and I don't know if any of them will tell you, but there's a few times where I had to fucking yell at their asses
It's
through
part of
through the
it.
phone. Um, and then when they stepped out on the floor in Albany, like they were a well-oiled machine,
They were
and
very impressive. It was
that
wild to
made
watch.
me so freaking proud of them.
Yeah.
That was really cool to see.
Yeah, that was one thing Hannah was saying is like the different because she's been on a couple
Yeah,
different teams throughout the CrossFit Games, and the biggest difference she said this year was the attention to like mindset and communication and actually being a team rather than just being fit people who are fighting for the same thing.
yeah. And look, I mean, dude, it freaking paid off like
Yeah, it did.
100%. Like they did so well at the games. I was so freaking proud of them.
Yeah, fifth fittest team in the world. That's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah, you guys gonna continue doing it, or you have no idea yet? Too early.
It's up to them. It's up to
Yeah,
them. I'm not
yeah.
going to push anybody. I think there's a very small chance that they'll do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're fit people, so they'll find success wherever they go.
Eh, like if they want to do it again, we'll support them again.
Absolutely. Well, what's next for not just Imam Co, but what's next for you, Brandon? Anything you
Man,
got planned?
yeah, I feel like the chapter of life that I'm in, like chapter life's a bunch of different chapters, and you don't really realize sometimes you don't realize when one is started or when one is ended until like you're a bit down the line. You're like, oh, that was a chapter of life, and like it was cool to live that chapter. I feel like the chapter I've started is just started,
Hmm.
about closing the chapter of competing, starting a chapter of life with family and businesses. And so, you know, we're learning a lot with these on both fronts. Chris and I learning how to be parents, Ron and I learning how to run the Imam company, my dad and I learning how to run these physics businesses and grow them. Um, and so, those are, like I said, those are the three things that are on my mind every day. And so, just figuring out how to be better at those things, and loving the process, um and just enjoying the work that goes into it, so right now what's next for me is continuing to learn how to be a better husband and father, continuing how to be a better physicist and serve my clients better and create better relationships, learning how to create the absolute best engaging program that I can, but more importantly, the best community of the Imam Co that I can.
Oh yeah, I love that. Now, before we finish up, I want to do some rapid fire questions. This is new. Okay, so hang tight. What is your favorite Imam workout of all time?
The first one I ever wrote.
First one you ever wrote. It took you
Yeah.
4 times to complete it.
Yeah.
I saw
20
that one
calorie
actually
run.
on
Yeah.
Instagram once, and I was like, "There's no way in hell."
Yeah. We actually put out like $200 to the first person to complete it.
Yeah. Did
And it
somebody
took,
win?
yeah, there's this little runner, Joey Costa. He does our endurance programs, and well, he's written some of our endurance programs, like our C2 bike watt program. He wrote incredible program.
Yeah, I've had a
And
couple conversations with him before. He's fit
yeah,
as hell.
he's a stud. He's awesome human. And then he also writes our High Rocks program because his mind is just wired for endurance progressions. And he does a great job with our High Rocks program, better than I could have done with it. And so, yeah, he's crushing that. But that's how I got to know him, was he took $200 from me.
That's great. Great way to build relationships.
Yeah.
So, second question, go to energy drink or pre-workout?
I don't really take pre-workout, other than just like a little bit of caffeine.
Yeah.
So the best energy drink to me is going to be like, are you talking about like in a can?
It could be whatever you want.
I only drink coffee. I'll drink like White Monster and sugar-free Red Bull. Those are the three things I
I mean,
like.
the White Monster is like the iconic energy drink.
It's not. It's more of like, it's just like a thing, and so
Yeah.
like I'm not like absolutely over the heels in love with it, but it's just like a thing. It's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
It's a thing for when coffee isn't readily available, I feel
Yeah,
like.
that's right. That's right.
What is the hardest part of fatherhood so far?
Being present.
Mm.
And another hard thing for me is when he's crying and I don't know how to like take away whatever's hurting him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's hard. It's hard to see somebody
Yeah.
hurt and then no idea what's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's been tough.
Last question. What is one book, podcast, or resource that you recommend to learn?
To learn what?
To learn mindset, we'll say.
Huh.
Personal development.
There's a book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich.
It's a great book.
It's a great book.
Classic book.
And the premise of the book is, you know, is how to build wealth. But like I've said, the discipline that you learn in the gym with a barbell in your hand applies to every aspect of life. And so vice versa, the disciplines that you learn to create like wealth for your family or yourself also apply to other areas of life. Again, it's a discipline, it's grit, it's embracing the journey, the ups and downs and all those things, and also just wanting it really bad. And so that's a really good book. There's also a book called The Formula, and a lot of it is about the formula of success. And like one of those snippets that stood with me um, in that book was there's they took a group of individuals and tracked them through their life. The ones who applied to Ivy League schools but didn't get into Ivy League schools, on average, made just as much money as all Ivy League graduates. The reason being is that they had the desire.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they were talented or smart enough or whatever, didn't matter. It was that they had the desire to go shoot for that, like to shoot for the stars. And so again, like it's one of those things, like you don't have to be talented, you don't have to come from the best family or the best background or have all the right cards in your hand. You've just got to play the game really hard.
I love that. And that's a perfect way to end it. Well, Brandon, thank you for being on the podcast. I will put down below where everybody can find you. I'll put all the resources for the Imam Co. But is there any other things, like, I'll end it here. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to anybody out there who wants to do something, like whether it be start CrossFit, start a business, what would that advice be? And they're afraid to start.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, is like everybody's afraid to start. And being afraid is okay. In fact, you probably should be afraid because it's going to be hard. And so being okay with that, And just this morning, someone asked me, what does keep chasing mean to me? And what I said was like, it is everything. So you have to start to get started. But once you've started, like it doesn't matter how freaking hard it is, how many times you fail, how many times you lose, whatever it is, like you've got to keep chasing that thing that you want. Like if you're not happy with like your physical strength and like, your body, like okay, you've got to keep chasing whatever it is that makes you stronger and fitter. If you're not happy with like your job, like you want something different for your life and purpose, like you've got to go chase those things. And like you cannot drift through this life and let life happen to you. You've got to grab life by the horns and like the horns and tell it where to go. So like you've got to chase whatever it is that you want. You've got to chase it with all your heart.
Yep, I agree. Awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. And
Of course.
everybody listening, go follow Brandon, go follow Imam Co, and go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.
Absolutely. Keep chasing, baby.
Hell yeah.